Actraiser is a hybrid platformer and city-building simulation game with elements of fantasy and role-playing. It is considered a god game in that the main character's perspective is that of a god or creator. This is one of the most interesting mixes of genres I've ever seen, and I'd argue that there's never been one like it before or since. The game has landed on many top lists for the Super Nintendo and games overall, and the cartridge is a staple among collectors. It was later ported to handhelds and other systems, and it even spawned a sequel on the Super Nintendo, which abandoned the city-building simulation for a more robust 2D action platformer experience. Many would argue that the sequel was less successful due to the lack of innovation the original had to offer. Not only is Actraiser a remarkable blend of genres, it tells a timeless story through well-paced action and beautiful 16-bit era graphics and sound. Published under the Enix name, Quintet came to develop Actraiser, which was Enix's first third-party console title. This is because Dragon Quest, aka Dragon Warrior in the US, was developed specifically for the Famicom. The Dragon Quest series is arguably the most important JRPG in the history of video games. I'd love to talk more about that, but that will be left for a later game review. Actraiser wasn't necessarily a launch title, but there was about an 11-month gap between the Japan and North American releases of the SNES, so by the time the SNES hit the States, there were already several titles available. I was one of the lucky ones at Christmas in 1991. With a mere 6 games that my parents decided to purchase to go with our brand spankin' new Super Nintendo, Actraiser was one of them, and it proved to be one of the biggest surprise hits. The music composer Yuzo Koshiro has connections to games like Streets of Rage, the early Shinobi titles, as well as Sonic the Hedgehog for the Game Gear. He would go on to become one of the most recognized game composers and sound programmers in gaming, with contributions to Super Smash Bros. Brawl and even a random Castlevania title. His arrangements from Actraiser were played live at the 2nd annual Symphonic Game Music Concert, and have even been released on vinyl. He is truly a talented composer, and he's left his mark on Actraiser, and in more than one way. From the opening scene, you've been awakened by an angel telling you that you must regain your lost strength. Monsters have been released upon the land by an evil demon named Tanzra, who was the one who sealed away your power. In order to regain your strength, you must rekindle the people's faith in you. You will have to go down to Earth and destroy the demons in order to establish a peaceful land for people to inhabit, so you descend down to Earth to kick some demon butt in what is known as Act 1. It is quite the confidence boost. After completing the first act, you're immediately placed in a city-building simulation. 2 people appear and walk into a temple. The angel from the Sky Palace joins you and informs you that they're here to do as you instruct, and they will rid the monsters from the land with their bow and arrows. By destroying all the monsters, you'll reveal a greater evil that controls the land. Once you destroy that demon, you'll have restored total control of the area back to the people. The briefing is clear, but you're immediately interrupted by the 2 people who walked into the temple. They ask that you clear the land of bushes so they may build homes and cultivate. They soon inform you they've gained enough confidence to fight monsters, and ask to be led to them, and then they destroy the monster's lair, getting one step closer to a more peaceful land. The angel floats around the city, doing as you instruct and guiding you through the game. As you begin working with the people and building the city, both tragedy and triumph occur. Even the magic you perform here are called miracles, and are not only necessary to progress, but add to the godlike nature of your role. In this first example, you have the choice to let these houses burn down, which may accidentally happen if you don't have enough magic points to bring rain, or if you manage to put the fire out, the angel makes a comment about the nature of humans. In this way, the angel acts as a mediator between the townsfolk and your actions as the master, and the game begins drawing you in as a spectator on human behavior. As you build out the city, the population increases and your character levels up. There's advancement in civilization, and the people can start building better houses, and events will happen that reveal the plight of the inhabitants. In this first area, you find out that the man who addresses you in the temple has the gift of foresight. He says he's been having nightmares and feels that he's cursed because he's the one that's been given the ability to see it. He reveals that he knows where the true evil in the land is coming from, and asks that you come down and destroy the demon from his nightmares. The next action segment becomes available and is known as Act 2. It's important to note that throughout video game history, some companies, specifically Nintendo of America, had strict policies regarding content that could be deemed offensive, from prohibiting sex, drugs, and gratuitous violence to such things as overt religious themes, including Christianity. For the English localization of Actraiser, The main character was renamed from God to the Master, and the main antagonist of the game was renamed from Satan to Tanzra. The different areas of the game, including enemies and bosses, take from religious themes throughout our world, from Greek mythology to Hinduism. Violence in video games may be subjective, but playing a game where, in the worst case scenario, you die, just like every other video game, and you have to start over is completely expected. What's unexpected in Actraiser is that you're ruling over what we perceive as mortal people. They are religious people, you could even say God-fearing people. And these people will actually die due to events in the story. This can even be from our own neglect or intervention, and sometimes, even our own wrath. After fighting the monster from this guy's nightmares, which is a minotaur, you return to the temple and it's decorated to show you freed the land from evil. The man who had visions which he believed were a curse has passed away, but he had some uplifting last words about his existence. The townspeople are now dancing outside the temple in your honor. Not bad for the first area of a game. To me, this is where Actraiser transcends other games, incorporating mature themes such as eternal love, parenthood, human suffering, mortality, the afterlife, and of course, human sacrifice. They are conveniently placed throughout the entire game, which unfolds at a perfect pace. This allows for a vast amount of open interpretation, which leads to a very rewarding gameplay experience, and can actually morph depending on when you play this game in your lifetime. It's really cool to see how an in-game event is represented so quickly in the city building simulation. Here, there are 3 people who are chosen to be sacrificed and are sent to an evil castle. One of them falls down along the way, perhaps to bring levity to the situation. These little quirks throughout the game that can sometimes be overlooked really add value, whether you catch them the first time or you're playing in subsequent playthroughs. The developers did an excellent job crafting unique areas with varying degrees of climate and landscape. Represented in both the action stages and the simulation, the different stages each have their own problems relative to their geography, which creates what feels like a large and complete world. From frigid northern cold to a tropical island and a full desert landscape, each area develops differently with unique plot elements that eventually intertwine with one another. Relying on a discovery or a gift from one land to benefit another, you create a globalized feeling that, without your help, it seems the people would suffer and cease to prosper. I think the developers once again make an excellent point here that people are truly capable of helping themselves, and that we can always solve a problem if we work together, and that humanity that relies on the intervention of a god or a deity is rather archaic. A common theme throughout the game is being led into temptation. From the curious boy named Teddy, whose exploration of the blood pool leads not only to the source of the contamination of the blood-stained lake, it reveals the true evil of the land. Way to go, Teddy. In the desert of Cassandora, an ancient pyramid is uncovered and begins drawing the locals to it, even leading a man to his death while trying to reach it. And in the tropical island of Marana, an ominous temple appears. Not only is it perceived as evil, it eventually tempts even the couple who address you in your very own house. How insulting. This points out a common theme in religions that only the truly devout will be saved, and that many religions threaten those who would challenge their faith or abandon faith altogether. In Actraiser, it's up to you to stop the evil, and it depicts the helplessness of humans in the face of temptation. The story culminates after you liberate the last area from evil. The final boss, Satan, or Tanzra if you're keeping track, has revealed himself, and it's obvious that you must defeat him. He's summoned his most loyal minions, the last bosses from each of the 6 areas, and together with him, there's a 7-boss gauntlet that you must endure to complete the game. Once you defeat him, you'll have freed the world from all evil, and of course, the people will live happily ever after. The game's ending is one of the most satisfying and meaningful I've ever experienced. This game was not only a part of one of my very favorite Christmases growing up, but I remember when my oldest brother first beat the game. We were all visiting my grandmother while still on Christmas break, and everyone began gathering around the TV to watch the game's ending. I don't think I've seen so many people stop to watch a video game's conclusion. The angel takes you on a tour of all the different areas of the world, and the message speed slows down, probably to make sure everyone reads it. I think it adds to the weight of your triumph, and it draws attention to the developer's final commentary on our human existence. In each area, the angel recalls the major events that occurred, and reflects on how you, as their god, help them achieve their goals and reach fulfillment as human beings who labor and struggle through hard times. In the first area, the angel brings up the man with foresight and draws conclusions that with his foresight, he knew he was going to die. He goes on to say that from birth we are all guided by a force called destiny. Destiny is interesting as a word. It is rooted in destin, which means purpose or design, from which is also derived destination, which is where we are going. I think the developers are not only commenting on the humble nature of humans to accept who they are, but that we are aware of our mortality, and that accepting it makes us strong and allows us to achieve greatness in our lifetime. In the area of Bloodpool, not only was there a standout character, he's the only one with a given name. Teddy, which is short for Theodore, definitely has a religious meaning. The name means gift of God. Teddy was the focal point of Bloodpool. The angel points out that perhaps Teddy gained favor due to his curiosity, which may be a comment on free will. It also shows our human flaw of not treating people equally because of bias. The angel brings up the drawing of lots for the human sacrifice, which leads not only to a confession from the angel, but even an admission of guilt that the angel knew beforehand that the boy was chosen to be sacrificed. He says that he spared your feelings as the master due to the charismatic nature of the boy, and perhaps the angel knew that you'd do whatever it would take to save the boy when the time came. The desert land of Cassandora. The angel states that the pyramid was built by slaves, and the monsters were the spirits of those slaves dealing with eternal unrest. It even mentions reincarnation, and that because we freed the pyramid from evil, their souls were saved and will be reincarnated as human beings. Pretty common themes throughout religion. There's always something about slavery, and of course, we have to have an afterlife. In the volcanic region of Athos, the angel points out how the leader had died before us. A man, guided by your hand, was mortally wounded and stood outside the temple. He asked that you bring rain so that he may be showered in your tears before passing on. Two different outcomes could have occurred here. If you make it rain for him, it's perceived as an act of compassion. But if you deny him your tears, he states that his prayers weren't answered because he wasn't of royal blood. There's so much philosophical interpretation that can take place here, so I'll keep it brief. I like how, playing as God, it's up to you to prove your existence. It's a common theme. If God were so powerful and we can pray to him, why doesn't he prove his existence? The other part of this is the excuse the guy makes if you don't prove yourself. You don't show him this act of mercy, so he says he wasn't important enough or wealthy enough, specifically of royal blood. It's this kind of backhanded response from a guy on his deathbed, a lowly insult to you as the master because you won't answer his prayers, even though he's devout. This game just does all of this so well. I feel like the more times I play it, the more meaning I derive from the perfectly portioned dialogue. On the island of Marana, the angel talks about how the people were led astray to the evil temple. The angel even says that humans take the path of least resistance, particularly when faced with overwhelming difficulties. He then points out that this is a human weakness, and then expresses pity for them, and even states that he felt obligated to step in and help. I think this points out the vanity we place in God. Most faiths don't like to be challenged, especially by another god. It's often put that there can only be one true God. There shall be no other gods before me. Here, we intervened when the people lost faith in us, and that ended up saving them. In the final land of Northwall, the angel really goes off the deep end. The angel theorizes that the couple who addressed you in the temple were reincarnations of sweethearts who lived in the land long ago. They had carved their initials into the tree to symbolize their eternal love for one another. When the monsters were drawn to the tree, the couple had a sort of inexplicable affection for it, and that's why they had you fight off the monsters. Even the angel shows doubt in this hypothesis, but thinks it's a beautiful story nonetheless. The angel then decides to look inside the temple with you, and you see that it's empty. This blows my mind because the angel states that as cultures become more advanced and the world becomes more hospitable, people have less need for religion than they did through the hard times of primitive civilization. The angel states that because we helped the people and they became more prosperous, they will eventually forget how they got here or who helped them along the way. We also live in a prosperous time, perhaps extreme opulence, and more people today identify as atheists than ever before. It's hypothesized that we're nearing the end of existence for man. How we fade away is yet to be determined, but some say it will be because of our inability to change who we are, that we become too stuck in our ways, either from ignorance or pride. This challenges so much about our faith-based systems and the idea that we're given free will, or that we have a destiny. Rather, should I say, we have a predetermined destination. The gameplay for Actraiser is really well done. From the moment you interact with the angel, to floating around on a cloud in your sky palace, even the basic Windows-like interface all seems odd but eventually becomes very natural to the story. There's great transitions between the modes and the menus, evoking a sense that you're floating on a cloud high above the world with little regard for what the humans are doing, then descending down into the action stages ready to fight monsters. The 2D action is basic, requiring no more than 3 buttons for jumping, swinging your sword, and using magic. The controls feel a little stiff at first, but within a few minutes the player becomes aware of the limitations of jumping and the basic hit detection. The beginning stage makes the game very accessible, priming you for greater action that is yet to come, which reminds me of the first Super Mario game and how it gets progressively harder level by level. The top-down city simulation also boasts some action. You now act through the angel, who's armed with a bow and arrows, and very much resembles Cupid. You can bring up the menu at any time, which halts the action, and allows you to interface with the people in the area or create miracles to alter the land. This top-down perspective resembles more of a shooter-style game, and the enemies each have discernible patterns and varying degrees of strength and devastation. You're placed between keeping the people of the city alive by shooting down monsters, but you also take damage as the angel, rendered unable to shoot arrows if your life is fully depleted. From interfacing with the people, to bringing up the menu, then going back to shooting down monsters, the gameplay is seamless. The narrative of the game is truly progressed through this simulation mode, and though there are small interruptions, it's actually brief relative to most modern story-driven RPGs. This creates a very healthy balance to listening to the people to find out your next step, achieving that goal, and then presenting the next action stage for those wishing to feel more like a real hero in the story. The action levels are at times no more than a few scrolling segments connected together. Enemies become harder, requiring more swings from your sword, and more aggressive in their movements. At times they are completely invulnerable to your attacks, which adds some depth and strategy in what appears to be such a simple platformer of a game. You take very little damage, and there's very few instant death mechanics, but being a platformer, there is definitely a lot of jumping, and obviously areas where you can fall instantly to your death. They make use of sand effects in the desert, deteriorating floors, rideable rides, and you'll even careen through a frozen cavern on a block of ice. The action stages are very fluid. They reward memorizing enemy and boss patterns, and even reward player aggression when you figure out how many hits it takes to kill things. For a platformer that's hardly progressed past the days of Super Mario, it's really fun to play. The action and simulation phases are blended so perfectly that the story is gated behind having to fight in the next action sequence, and the action is gated behind playing through the story in the city building simulations. The game feels linear in this way. For instance, here, a plague breaks out, how biblical, and construction can't continue unless they find a way to cure it. But later on you can actually abandon efforts in a town to go fight in another area and unlock its city building simulation. You'll find that almost no playthrough is exactly the same due to the many triggers in the city building simulations, which, along with its timeless story, creates rich replay value. The soundtrack to this game is as much of a standout as is the blended genres it has to offer. The composer Yuzo Koshiro absolutely knocks it out of the park. From the grand introduction to orchestral sense of the floating sky palace evoking the tranquil heavens, Koshiro shows unbelievable mastery over the 16-bit era. The first action scene has vibrant strings which bounce over a meaty bass line, perfectly matching the outset of adventure. The palace stages offer music that calls attention to the vastness of the halls and almost hypnotizes you by its Snake Charmer's flute. Other action soundtracks are so complex, it sounds as if you're in an Indiana Jones film, or it were written by Aaron Copland himself. Remember that ad campaign? Beef, it's what's for dinner. The horns dance furiously to match the pace of the action, and it really feels like you're in the hands of a world-class composer. And this one lone track, Act 1 from Northwall, is the only stage that uses it. It's filled with playful harp plucks over a soothing woodwind. It's definitely one of my favorites. His true mark on Actraiser, where his love for orchestral music is bestowed to the player, is when construction in Bloodpool, the second stage, comes to a halt. The people tell you that fighting has broken out, typical humans, and they don't know what to do to stop the unrest. It's later in the desert land of Cassandora that the gift of music is given to the master. The narration draws attention to the artist's intent when he wrote the music, and that it was written for the man that lost his life in the desert, a dirge, if you will. They state that music has the power to calm people's hearts and soothe their pain. You then gift the music to the quarreling people. It pauses and asks, Can't you tell what the man was feeling when he wrote this music? The game itself is drawing attention to the music for the player. It's as if Kushiro was reaching through the screen to grab you. The game developers no doubt recognized the great talent of Kushiro and thus allowed for his placement firmly within the game. This is Kushiro transcending the role of composer and actually incorporating himself into the plotline of a game. This has become, to me, a most profound moment in video game history. For damn near a launch title, this game has so much polish, and the graphics, though not groundbreaking nor fancy, really do convey the story quite well. Each zone has its own feel, and there's excellent use of parallax scrolling. Inside the temples, the shot is tight, has a simple lighting effect, and it gives perspective while showing you that these people get down on their knees when they address you. The city simulation is a great fit with the overlay above, showing people running through the streets to build every individual house, even depicting horses and dogs. You're immersed into the gameplay, it enhances the story, and it even allows for some emotional attachment. The parallax scrolling is top-notch. Inside the pyramid, the single scrolling background with the Anubis statues creates a feeling of being inside a vast structure, which makes the level seem larger than it is. The rolling clouds here extend into the infinite heavens as you stare off from the comfort of your floating sky palace. And this cold northern backdrop with its top-to-bottom landscape. Even if the graphics of this game might seem antiquated, Quintet made more from what they had at the time than most games could do well beyond this technology. The descent down from the heavens to fight monsters is so classy. It's a short sequence and has fun music. It's a great touch, the way the developers portray you coming down from your palace to fight monsters on the surface, while incorporating those state-of-the-art Mode 7 graphics. It's just enough to be playful and memorable without overdoing it. In a time where action platformers were the standard, Actraiser seized multiple genres with innovative gameplay and produced a standout hit that stood the test of time. After you complete the game, you can access Professional! See, it has an exclamation point. This mode does away with the story and simulation and offers a great challenge for those who are looking for a shorter gameplay experience. From garnering a sequel to ports of the game years after its release, the staying power of the company Enix and its later merger with Squaresoft in the early 2000s, Actraiser was a unique blend of game genres whose experimental nature really paid off. This could be attributed to such a great team at Quintet, the expanding capabilities the next generation console had to offer, and the oversaturation of straight platformers, plain puzzlers, and long drawn-out RPGs. There's more dialogue taking place here than a platformer could ever offer, but the narration is paced so that the story unfolds in reliable fashion. It's a beautiful tale of ultimate good versus ultimate evil, with an examination of human behavior and our own existence. With deep meanings of philosophy and religion, ducking under the radar of Nintendo of America's firm grasp on game creation guidelines, Actraiser raised the bar not necessarily of the multiple genres it stitched together, but raised the bar of gaming as a whole. I find this game can take on so many different meanings, no matter when you play it. Your meaning when you play it is not only a reflection of you, but also where you are in your lifetime. Whether you played the game during your favorite Christmas memories, or late at night when you were in your 20s and were still trying to figure out your place in life. Maybe you play it at middle age and it solidifies your already well-developed outlook on the world. I hope that it brings as much meaning into your life as it has into mine. Thanks for watching, everyone. Please feel free to leave your impressions in the comments. I promise you that I read all of them.